Welcome to another episode of Distorted Frequencies with me, Jordan Randall. Today we are taking a trip back into my past. We're talking to my old school friend, Heywood Taylor. Now, first thing you're going to notice about Heywood Taylor, he's got a lot of tattoos, including half of his face. Let's find out what that's all about. Hey, there he is. There he is.
This is the first time I've done a Zoom. Can you believe?
What?
Yes.
Has the pandemic not affected England for the past year and a half?
Not only did I isolate in my house during the pandemic, but I isolated from other people isolating in their houses during the pandemic.
Nice, nice.
Sorry, I'm just turning on my camera equipment.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Do what you got to do.
I can't believe how smooth this works.
Right.
The last time I used webcam stuff, it was like on Skype.
Times have changed, man. It's 2021.
It is.
Yeah,
it's exciting. How are you, John?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long time, man.
It's been over 20 years.
It's been over 20 years since we've spoken. Well, we've sent messages, but actually vocally communicating, it's been like 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
We were teenagers. And the funny thing is, back then, it was like, when you're like 15 and then someone's 13, that like you feel an age gap.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we're both just a bit old, really.
Yeah, now we're old people. What's funny though is like we're in our 30s,
yes.
But I'm sure you feel old. I feel old, but
I feel older than I used to. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like people. I meet people that are like 20, 25, like they're turning 25, and they're like, "Oh man, turning 25." And I'm like, "You don't even understand." But it's like that happens for every age gap, right?
For every decade, yeah.
When I tell someone like, "Oh man, like I feel like shit," I'm like in my mid 30s, and then they're like, "Well, wait till you get to your 40s, like you don't know how good you got it right now." I wonder if that happens for people that are like 70, 80, like
I don't know, but I've often thought about how people are always so focused on how old they're getting, but really it's all kind of the same. There's a guy that I work with who's 19 and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be 20 this year," and I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that, man.
No,
like that's bullshit. But no, it's weird. You know how people, when they're in their 40s and they say, "Oh, I feel like I've got the mind of a 25-year-old." It's like, I don't know. I feel a bit older than 25 in my head. Like I've been through stuff, man.
Totally.
But I definitely don't think I'm gonna age and get all like, people say that like when you get old and you start letting the old in, that's when you give up. So right. I think maybe I'll just stay 36 for the rest of my life. That kind of works.
That sounds perfect.
It's only been the past year where I've really like found myself and found comfort within myself. So
during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, since I met my partner, the pandemic wasn't that bad because we had a baby.
Oh yeah.
So Bella she was like 2 months old when the vid kicked in. And so we were occupied, man. Like we were busy. We just moved into a new house with a garden, so it was. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are gonna hate me for this, but we had it okay, man. We were chilling.
It was awesome. It was awesome for you.
Yeah,
hanging out in the garden.
How was it on your side of the world?
It was awesome. It was awesome. I became like a full-blown alcoholic. I don't regret anything. It was amazing. I literally, because I don't know what the situation is over there for you guys, but when COVID hit here, our government gave us a bunch of free money. Like they were giving us like $2,000 a month. Just everyone. Wow. Yeah, $2,000 a month. That was about as much as I was actually making while working at that point. So
right.
I basically I got like 4 or 5 months off from work.
Yeah.
I sat in my backyard and I drank all day.
So regardless of like what work you did do and how much money you had been bringing in previously, everyone got $2,000 to just sustain life, sort of thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah,
man, because here they had this thing called a furlough scheme, so they'd pay you 75% of what you had previously been earning.
Okay.
And so everyone that was self-employed and ultimately had been lying about how much they made, suddenly we're getting 75%, but but they say for example, you used to make $3,000 a month to sustain your life, but you've been telling the government you've been making £1,000, and now you're getting £750. That's a significant drop. But I did it another way, but I'm not going to say it on here. But we had it good. It was nice.
That's awesome. And congratulations, obviously, with your daughter.
Thank you.
I've seen pictures. Seems absolutely adorable. So
yeah, on my private Instagram, that's why I had to change it to private, because I was like, I am just obsessed with my child, and and I can't make it public. I never really thought it was a problem until I had a child. But once you have a child, you have all these like, I want to keep this amongst people that I know, sort of thing.
yeah, and I think like probably as your audience grows too, you don't know what kind of weirdos are watching your stuff. So
exactly, and I knew that I wanted to start creating more of a public presence this year.
Yeah,
hence why I started the other Instagram page, and I'm pushing that, which is really exciting.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Your YouTube videos are really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
It feels like very honest, but also like there's just a lot that people can learn,
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to start YouTube since I was around 2021 years of age, and I always made excuses why not to do it. And I mean, a lot of it was to do with the ADHD. A lot of it was to do with the fact that self-doubt at the core of it is what kind of stopped me. And before I started, everything in my life had just kind of fit into place. I was finally in a relationship that I was happy with. We had the little one. Work was going well. There was enough money to be happy. And I was still missing something. And I really looked inwards, and I was like, what is it that's missing? And I was like, it's that fucking YouTube channel. Is it like, and it's mad, but it's like, it's what, just start the fucking channel. Because I kept feeling like I was missing out on a potential outlet, just a creative outlet. Working really hard for other people is great in the creative industry, but when you've got it in you to do it, sorry, I waffle a lot. It's because I'm excited.
That's fantastic, man. That's fantastic, honestly. And I watched that video that you made about like starting a YouTube channel and all the different ways that one can procrastinate or put it off, and I feel like all that stuff is super relatable, because it's like, yeah, I'm like that all the time too. Like it's that the first step's always the hardest step, right? And so you have these ideas, to do these things that are going to give you that sort of creative like outlet, but it's kind of scary, and it's scary too, when it's something as personal as talking about yourself to a faceless audience. It's like, I don't have you gotten any like mean comments
trolls
yet?
Yeah, man. The first video that I posted, the one about all the reasons why you might not start your YouTube channel, a good friend of mine, he shared it on his platform, on his YouTube channel, and he's got a significant amount of numbers. So I had like a huge initial bombardment of people, and a lot of them were just like, who is this fucking guy with his face tattoos, and good luck getting a job with your face tattoos, and like just really nasty comments. And that was my first experience with comments from YouTube. And I was like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. This isn't a problem. I've got it. And then at nights I'd be like, what am I doing? Why am I starting a YouTube channel? Like, people hate me already. And then I tried to put it into context, and I spoke to my partner, and she was like, you just have to push forward with it. Like, trolls comes with part of it. And so, yeah, no, I've had abuse. I've had cyber abuse.
Cyberbullying. It's real.
I think the longer, it's funny, isn't it? I think the longer you go on with it, the more of your audience the more of your audience that you have, that you grow and that support you, like, it makes more sense. Like, you're doing it for them ultimately. And so the odd troll here or there, it's insignificant. And because a lot of the insults are empty, like they're not coming from a real place of hating you. Ultimately they're coming from a place of hating themselves. They're the ones that need the love.
It's true.
And
yeah.
So like, I try to either reply or just remove the message, because I don't want too much hate going on in the comments. But
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right though. I mean, it's like I always just gotta, question someone who's gonna take the time,
Yeah.
like because I mean, like you inside your head, you can think whatever you want, It's like
Right.
you have the ultimate freedom inside your head to think whatever horrible stuff you want, and no one
Yeah.
will know. It's like incognito mode inside your brain.
Yeah.
You could be a horrible person, but to then take that outside of your head, project that into the outer world, what it actually requires some degree of effort, like creating a YouTube account and then like leaving a comment on someone's video or whatever, saying something mean. It's like, wow, like really, it you put forth some effort just to let people know that you're miserable right now about something. It's like, okay.
Well, exactly, and that's kind of the way I look at it. It is like a little bit of a cry for help, because these people are. Well, I mean, I haven't researched too much into it, but I think they're probably getting some sort of endorphin from it.
Yeah.
That it makes them ultimately, it makes them feel good to make other people feel shit, or even just to throw shit out there. Because I don't think some of the trolls even look back on the responses. Because they're especially active trolls, they're just going from account to account, throwing abuse, and then just going on with their day. And I think there's got to be something inside you which needs a hug ultimately. But it is what it is, man. I embrace it, and for the algorithm, it's great. Like the more comments, the better. Like bring it on.
Hey, it's engagement. It's engagement.
Yeah. And algorithms are a bitch, man. Can I swear on this?
Absolutely. I encourage it.
I was worried at first when I started the YouTube thing, because it's like I read things and like watched things that if you swear, then they're going to suppress your videos and it's hard to monetize it. And I was like, fuck it, man. If I can't swear, I'm not doing it. Like, I can't. There's no other way for me to do it.
It's hard for me to talk without swearing.
Yeah, it's like it's a way of expressing yourself, right?
It is, yeah. It is.
Yeah.
So let's so for the people that are going to be watching or listening to this, they don't know about the history of us. We grew up in Spain, south of Spain, and we were in different years. So years is like the British system for grades. So you were like what, 2 years ahead of me, or 3 years?
I was 2 years, 2 years apart.
Yeah. So
you were in the class with Cassie, weren't you?
That's correct. That's correct.
Who I'm still in touch with every now and then. She's the only one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Every now and then we shoot an Instagram message or something.
Yeah, she's cool, man. She was always a very cool person.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, despite us not really, like, we didn't really hang out at school. Like, I really spent most of my exposure to you was on the bus.
Yeah, it was the bus. Yeah.
You lived so fucking far away. You were the furthest away from the school that you were there for the entire bus ride in the morning and in the evening. So you're like the main attraction of the bus. Everyone that took the bus knew that Heywood would be on the bus because you were the last stop.
I was always on the fucking bus, man. Yeah. And not only that, I used to get on the bus first, and then I was on the bus for a good 20 minutes before anyone else got on the bus. Like,
yeah, you lived like what, an hour and a half away from the school. It took forever.
Yeah.
So
until they kicked me out.
Did they kick you out?
They asked me to leave.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that. I wondered why you weren't there anymore.
I
never asked anyone.
Well, I'll quickly tell you, it was really sudden. That was a really bad summer for me. Like, I went off the rails and family members passed away, and me and a few other people from that school, but I won't mention any names, broke into a house, and the school found out, and basically the school was like, we think it's best Heywood didn't come back to Sunnyview School. and then I went to like institute.
An institute.
That
sounds intense.
Yeah, it was. It was called. I won't say the name, but it was basically a school for kids on the coast that had been expelled from other schools. So we were just like a bunch of like fuck ups, basically.
There must have been a lot of people there, because I feel like almost everyone I know was like expelled.
Man, that Costa del Sol, like, it'll always be home to me, but Jesus Christ, that place is cursed. I
It's
honestly,
difficult.
yeah, it's a lot of people go down the wrong path on that place. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I did for sure. It's just I navigated through it and out of it before it was too late. I love being melodramatic. I can't help it, but it's like life is dramatic sometimes, man.
It is, certainly is. And no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, life on the Costa del Sol is like geared to make you like an addict of some sort. But
So how much can I ask you about things like addiction and stuff?
you can ask me anything. This is a
Did you
safe space. Hey, Heywood. Heywood, you can ask me whatever you want.
this place feels good. It feels good. Um, so did you? So when I left, I was 15. So you would have been 13.
Mhm.
How long did you stay in Sunnyview for?
The
Sorry,
whole
I'm
way.
going.
The whole way. Yeah,
Right.
I
Okay.
went all the way. I finished in 2005. I was 17, turning
Yeah.
18. And then I moved to Canada after that.
Yeah.
But I lucked out because while you guys were partying, I was not partying. I went straight edge. I was straight edge for the majority of my
Really
like teen years. Yeah.
amazing.
So yeah, I kind of dodged a bullet in that sense, but it was weird because I remember like there was, I don't know if you remember like any of the people that were in my class, but I don't know, maybe you hung out with them outside because like I kind of one of the famous expulsions from Sunnyview was Marlon. Did you ever meet Marlon?
No.
No.
What
Yeah,
did he do?
I'm actually doing a podcast with him pretty soon too. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but we will be talking about this. But he got expelled because one day we were sitting in the cafeteria,
Yeah.
some other table with a bunch of much younger kids. They're throwing like food wrappings at us and stuff. And so
Yeah.
someone was like, oh, we should throw some food back at them, get them back. And Marlon goes, you know what would be even funnier is if I went over and kissed that boy. And we all said, you know what, that would be hilarious. So he went over, walked up behind the kid, kissed him on the cheek. He
Yeah.
was like, "Ugh." All of his friends start laughing at him. Marlon comes back to our table. We're laughing. We're like, that is so funny. That is so much funnier than throwing food back.
Yeah.
Turns out that kid's was the son of a minister. And so
Oh shit.
so the
Oh
next day,
no.
um, they call up the school and they're like saying this kid like kissed our son and this is awful. Our kid's gonna go to hell now. So they basically suspended Marlon for a bit,
Kissing
and then
him.
yeah, for kissing, and like not in a sexual way or anything like that. And so
Yeah, but
then
Sunnyview was always homophobic.
it's super homophobic. So that was
Miss O'Dowd was
super
homophobic. Sorry.
so much so, and like
And her
and
nephew was
was
right,
Boy
right.
George, yeah,
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 right. She
unbelievable.
hated that. She hated people like that.
Unbelievable. I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes back like 2 weeks later after the suspension. The first thing he does when he walks in, he's wearing like a Playgirl like crop top thing. And they just saw him and they expelled him right on the spot. And it started this whole sort of thing, which I think was actually pretty positive in the end because a lot of parents actually got together and were like, what is this? Like, you're expelling this kid because of homophobia, basically.
Yeah.
And so I think that started to really sort of reveal the cracks in that school and how intolerant it was towards that stuff. And it was like,
I
yeah,
don't know.
okay,
I I don't want to talk about Sunnyview for too long, but you know Morad. Do you remember Morad that was in my
yeah, yeah, yeah,
class?
yeah, yeah.
He came into one of the classes that Miss O'Dowd was teaching, and he was wearing a dress. And I never found out to this day like why he did it, but he was just wearing a dress, and she sent him out of the room. And it's
Let's,
like, I mean, you can't. I mean, I hope you can't do that now. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
this narrow-mindedness is madness.
it's
But
it's
I
it's
feel I
wild.
feel like society's slowly getting there. Do you know what I mean? Like with
Yeah.
social media pushing it and everybody like speaking out, like there's movements happening, and even though I can't keep up with like all the pronouns and everything, like I try to keep as like diplomatic and asking as many questions as fucking possible. But I'm so glad it's happening because
Mhm.
everybody's getting a voice, even the minorities, even the minority of the minorities. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's fantastic. No,
It is. It's good.
it is a good thing to see finally happening.
Yeah, it's
But
about time.
and Sunnyview School, hopefully they've changed their ways a little bit. I don't know.
So some of
I
you never corrupted you, never got into.
So yeah, I mean, like I was lucky in that sense that I was straight edge throughout most of those like teen years in Spain. And
Yeah,
yeah, it was funny because like when I was with my group of friends, they were like 13 or something. We went and we picked up like a bottle of vodka from, the supermarket or whatever, and we were like drinking it. It was so awful. Like I think we started throwing up instantly, but we thought it was so cool.
yeah.
And I remember we bought like a pack of cigarettes from one of those vending machines, and we were like, smoking it, but not properly inhaling it. I think you were so cool, like
Yeah.
knowing that this vodka and the cigarettes taste terrible. And so I like at that point, you could see some people were like, okay, I'm going to go heavily into this because this
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
fun. As early as 13, and it's crazy. But luckily, I went straight edge, and I continued that all the way up until 17. And then I started drinking a bit with my friends in the final year, the final grade of high
Yeah.
school. Um, but then yeah, and then I really opened the gates for myself when I went into university. I just like went insane. I was
Went
like
for it.
drinking fucking every day. I was like smoking weed. Yeah, then from that, like basically everything. I tried all the drugs, and
I tried all the
I tried
drugs.
all the drugs.
That's a
And
good slogan.
all of them.
I tried
and
all the drugs.
and I loved them all. And
Yeah. Well, a lot of them are very nice.
yeah, they were a lot of fun. I definitely don't have that relationship with them anymore, but
Were
uh
you more inclined towards the psychedelic type, or the more like speedy type, or more of the
all of it,
depressive type?
all of it,
Really?
all of it. Yeah, I mean, it took a
I loved psychedelics, but they scared me so much. They just
yeah.
I've had I'm that person that's had a bad trip on everything, like every drug, and I really tried. And I just even on coke, like I had a bad trip on cocaine. Like
Oh.
that's really hard to do, man.
It's hard to do. It is
and it
hard to
was a,
do.
and it was a really bad trip. Oh
That's
yeah.
well, you know what? That's probably maybe a good thing in the end. I feel like the more bad trips you have from something, the easier it is to like wean yourself off of it. 'Cause you're
I
like,
mean,
"Eh,
some of my bad trips still haunt me to this day, but no, yeah. In the end, I quit just because my head was so tired. My whole my whole psyche was just tired, man.
yeah,
But I got into it early. Like I was smoking weed at 14. At the last year I was at Sunnyview, and then I got into heavy drugs at 16. So by the time I was in my 20s, I was like running out of space for me. But I've got friends now on the Costa del Sol that they're still going. Like their party never ended. They just keep going and going. I'm like, dude, how do you manage? And then you have a conversation with them. You're like,
oh, I
they,
see.
they haven't really managed. Like there's loads of holes. But
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen.
yeah,
Yeah, it's I there's a couple people I know that are like that too, where I like kind of look at them like, really still? But
yeah,
yeah, it's intense. But yeah, let's move on from Spain, I guess. That's the backstory there of how we know each
yes,
other. But yeah, I mean, like you were always like, you were kind of like, is it fair to say like the class clown? Is that an
yeah, yeah, yeah,
acceptable term?
yeah. I was definitely the class clown. I prided myself in it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't just pride myself in it. It was my only way I felt comfortable.
Yeah. Do you think
Because
that was because of like, because you have ADHD, right?
yes,
And I don't know, was that something that was like diagnosed back then? Because I feel like that like ADD and
mm,
ADHD, that was like something that I feel like came later, like in the
it
like
was.
2000s or something. Like people were like, oh, that's what that is now.
No, I mean, psychiatrists definitely knew about ADHD. They've known about it for decades. It's just that. So I was diagnosed first when I was 8, 6 or 8. I always forget.
Mhm.
But because originally they thought I was dyslexic, and then I had the test, and it was like, "Oh, your son has ADHD," but then nothing was really done about it. Um, in England at that time, because I was in England when I got diagnosed, they weren't really giving medication to children like they do in the States. And so my parents kind of just forgot about it and just moved on. Um, so yeah, I never really thought much about my ADHD again until I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
And it just wasn't working for me. Like my life was always in a constant state of chaos.
Mhm.
Even even in my like attempts to be sober and to eat clean and to go to the gym and have a really healthy lifestyle, which definitely helps the effects of ADHD. It was just, I had my internal software wasn't working. And that's when I thought, shit, maybe this is to the ADHD. And that's when I started researching it and everything fit into place. I was like, this is why. This is the answer to so many of my issues that I've got up until this point.
And it's funny to think that, like, you know, you would have that, but you were, you know, there with all of us. Like, it didn't seem like that our school really had any sort of consideration for anyone that had
Yeah,
that it was dealing with anything, or like everyone
yeah.
was just kind of the same.
It's bizarre because I've often looked back on that and thought about that, how at school they were saying the classic things that people say to people with ADHD. He's got so much potential. When he's interested in the subject, he does really well, but otherwise he's really disruptive, can't focus, doesn't concentrate. And it's like, dude, you're reading the definition of ADHD.
Yeah.
Like, how does the school not know this? Why are schools not educated on brain chemistry and what people could be going through? And for sure, like I struggled so much I mean, I loved school, but I struggled so much at school because 80% of the subjects I wasn't interested in. And to sit down and do homework in a subject you're not interested in when you've got ADHD, and like particularly strong ADHD, it's like physically impossible. It's like I always refer to it as someone who's colorblind. If you tell them to look at a rainbow and they say I can't see it, and then you're like, just look harder. It doesn't work, and it never will work.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, like, do you think that the ADHD? What were your grades like? Were they all right?
They varied. I mean, like English, psychology were A's, but then pretty much everything else every year went down because as I got older, the ADHD became kind of a lot harder to deal with. So yeah, I started flopping at things that I didn't like. I mean, I was lucky because other than the ADHD, my brain would absorb information quite quick. So I could half-ass it and kind of get through it. Jordan, I'm going to go get a glass of water, but I'm going to be 30 seconds.
You better be 30 seconds.
Dry. It's like a camel's ass. Sorry. I'm a professional. I used to do radio, you know.
Did you do that on the radio?
No. I'd be like, "Oi, Jim, get us some water."
Nice.
Well, on the radio, you can put a tune on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, then you can go do whatever you want.
Actually, we used to, me and my co-host that we used to do a morning show for a long time. We used to run out and have a cigarette during the songs at like 6 in the morning. We'd like, should we have 2 cigarettes? Oh yeah, we'll put on Insomnia. Fuck it, and we run outside and have 2 cigarettes.
Yeah, you put on a super long song like Stairway to Heaven or something, and then you can take a full-on break. That's yes.
Did you ever think? Have you got ADHD? How's your brain?
I don't know. No one ever diagnosed. Like I've often thought maybe I do. You know, like I'm kind of all over the place from time to time. But then again, it depends on what I'm interested in. Like I can really focus on stuff I'm interested in. Yeah. But I find I'm like only interested in a couple of things. So there's a lot of stuff that's just, you know, I'm like, surface level interest, but I don't really care that much. So I'm not gonna, you know, put all my brain power into it.
Do you find yourself, if you're having a conversation with someone or like in a social setting, do you find yourself like kind of tuning out halfway through sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
Because neurotypical people are able to stay focused because they know that the social norm is to stay focused and within the conversation. ADHD is unintentionally just kind of la 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 la, and then they're very good at like tuning back in when it's time to nod. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I go off of people's like facial cues. If someone's smiling, I start smiling too. I'm like, oh yeah, we're talking about something funny, right? And then they say something like, yeah, that's how my entire family died. I'm like, oh, okay.
I smile when I'm
exactly. That, you know.
Maybe you have got ADHD.
I don't know. It's weird. So I smoke a lot of weed, and I read online that the effects of indica versus sativa can be flipped for people that have ADHD. And I'm like, man, I smoke sativas and I'm like fucking ready for bed. So
Yeah.
maybe there's something there, but I don't know. I'm so disinterested in it that I'm not even going to look into
I mean,
it.
there's it kind of varies from person to person, because I had a good friend back in Barcelona who had ADHD, and when he took coke, he was exactly the same. It had no effect on him.
Really?
Um, that wasn't the case for me at all. So I guess your brain chemistry it differs even within the ADHD community.
Yeah, I think everyone's wiring is like, going to be different
Yeah.
for that kind of stuff too. Cause I definitely know some people that, 100% have ADHD, and that, these little factoids about like indicas and sativas having, it doesn't make any difference to them. So
I've been interested in the different types of weed, because I've not smoked it for so long now, because it started making me paranoid. I mean, I quit when I was 17,
wow.
and I never, apart from a few times when I went back to it, but not really very often. I've always thought like, oh, maybe I could one day just enjoy a quiet joint at home, but I would have to research the right ones, because I know the way that my brain chemistry is like, my default is paranoia when I smoke a joint, and it's just a really crap place to be. So,
Well, I mean, like you were probably smoking like that hash that came from Morocco back in
a
Spain.
lot.
So my first experience with weed was that Moroccan hash, and someone got it, and I went to someone's house. The parents were gone.
Yeah.
Bunch of dudes sitting around in a room, passing around this pipe with some hash in it, and I was like, am I gonna do this? And I was like, I'll do it. So I smoked it, and instantly it was just like I felt so horrible, and I couldn't like, it was a panic attack. I didn't know, I had never experienced that before, so I didn't know what the
Yeah.
hell it was, but I was like, I feel awful. I like went to the bathroom. I was just there, like staring at myself in the mirror. I was like, am I going to be sick? What's going to happen? I'm like over the toilet. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really necessarily feel like I'm going to throw up, but I don't feel right.
Yeah.
And I stayed in that toilet for, I felt like an eternity, but it was probably a pretty long time as well. Like it was probably like 30 minutes at least. I was just in there being like, what is happening? And nobody checked on me. Like there's like, I just
Yeah, they're busy
immediately,
getting stoned.
yeah, I immediately took that hit and just like walked into the washroom. And no one saw me for half an hour, and no one checked on me. But and then I walked out of
I
the
love how
wash.
that's the bit that you took with you, like, and no one checked on me.
Nobody checked on me.
May I
True.
add, not only was I in fear for my life,
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. So, but they didn't know. They didn't know that I was going through this horrible experience. So but I walked out of the bathroom. And I think I literally walked out of the bathroom and straight out of the front door. And I just walked home. And I was like, what the hell? This is awful. I don't know why anyone does this. And for some reason, I tried again. And the second time, it was really fun.
yeah,
So after that, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But then there were these moments where like I'd get some weed, and I would get anxiety, or I get paranoia and stuff like
yeah,
that. And I kind of found out throughout the years, like studying it and stuff, that there are a lot of variables that can, sort of trigger those things. So these days I stick
sure.
to stuff that doesn't trigger
That
that. So
that works for you.
yeah.
Have you not noticed any like side effects from it?
From smoking copious amounts of weed.
Yes.
um no, not at all. I'm a pretty firm believer in the power of THC and the other cannabinoids. We have an endocannabinoid system that runs through our body. Our body naturally produces a lot of these chemicals.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's all in, what you do with stuff. I mean, like I work at a weed store, right? So it's like I get these questions a lot, but I mean, there's people that come in, they're like, is smoking weed going to make you really stupid? And I'm like, no more than alcohol. And alcohol will make you really stupid. And it also depends on how stupid you were before you started.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe alcohol is much more of a detriment to society than weed will ever be, really.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's, I mean, everything bad really stems from alcohol. It's like
Yeah.
people are getting awful life situations from alcohol. They create awful situations for their significant others, their family, their friends. It's,
There Yeah, they're a risk to themselves and others. Yeah, if alcohol was invented today, they'd probably make it illegal, to be honest. You know, it's quite taxable, isn't it?
Yeah, it
So
is. And
to
now
keep it
so is
going.
weed, at least in Canada. So lots of people are buying that, and it's a great business to get yourself into during a global pandemic. Let me tell you, it's pandemic proof getting into the substance controlled substances business.
Yeah.
But
I'm envious, really. I mean, I wish I had, if I could do it all again, I'd probably have gone a different path with my chemical intake. But I'm quite happy being sober now. Although I
yeah,
sound quite solemn saying it.
well,
Quite happy being sober.
it's cool. I mean, like, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, your journey into sobriety. So, I mean, like, most people that I talk to that have quit drinking or quit like doing substances, I mean, more so quitting drinking, like, it's never just like oh, like I woke up one day and it's just like not for me anymore. It's like I feel like there's got to be some sort of event, like some horrible event that happens.
Well, it wasn't so much a horrible event while getting drunk, because the getting drunk bit was the escape from, okay, so this sounds melodramatic, but really alcohol for me was an escape from the anxiety that was my sober life. So my anxiety was so bad in social environments and with just general people on a day-to-day basis that getting drunk was everything. That was the time when I could really be free. And I don't know when it got so extreme, but I definitely already had it at school. And I think I probably had it since I was a child, really, and probably stems from that. But the hangovers started getting so bad and they were increasing the anxiety. So the already once like bad anxiety was now being enhanced to just really high levels. And that was causing me to feel quite depressed, which, is like anxiety's best fucking friend.
Yep.
So like it just started becoming a little bit manic. And so I don't think it was just one specific moment. It just gradually became like honestly unbearable, where I felt I had to get sober because I couldn't deal with the recovery period after a piss up. And because I had no alcohol control, if I got drunk, I mean, I got drunk. I didn't have one or two. That never happened. Even from the beginning, it was always to, what's the word I'm looking for? I always drank
to get wasted.
Yeah. It was always to excess, and it was always till like the very end of the night until I passed out, and it was just a fucking mess. And trust me, I tried every single possible variation not to quit alcohol. I tried drinking water between drinks. I tried just drinking beer. I tried going home at 10. But as soon as I had a couple of drinks, I didn't give a fuck about that. Like my brain was like, nah, we're good. We're doing what we know best. And that was to drink. And man, I fucking loved it. Like getting drunk for me was my everything, really. I never felt more me than when I was drunk, but it always ended up a mess.
Would you say that you were an alcoholic?
No, because I was never physically dependent on alcohol. And so I don't think it's fair if I called myself an alcoholic, because for alcoholics, they're so much further on. But I definitely had a drink problem, I didn't drink every day. I drank generally on the weekends, usually just Friday night, because I was too anxious on Saturday night to go out. It was just the fact that I had this, it was like a drink and social problem. And the alcohol and the social aspects, they were kind of battling each other and working together. Like the alcohol worked with the social for the Friday night, but then the rest of the week I was done. I was knackered, and my mental health was deteriorating gradually. And with my ADHD, it just like exacerbated it. It was a fucking nightmare, man.
Yeah, that's it. You made that YouTube video about your drinking and sobering up and everything. I think it was kind of interesting how you're talking about how you kind of like wove it into your life, or like you kind of you created like you were saying, you would drink on the Friday and know that you had like that hangover day on the Saturday, so you like wouldn't book anything. It's like you found a way to work this into your life with
Yeah, I
even
mean,
like the downsides of it.
yeah, I mean, I really didn't want to quit. I really didn't want to give it up. And like my Friday nights were so important to me. But yeah, I mean, I would drink on the Friday knowing that I would still be anxious Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but that it would be fine. I would still be able to go to work. I could never go to work with a hangover. That's not going to happen. The fear was too strong. And I mean, the amount of jobs that I've lost, and the amount of job interviews I never went to because I was hungover and, well, ultimately anxious. Like I should do another. I think I might do another video, just really with the core subject being anxiety, because on reflection, looking back with my ADHD and that alcohol problem and all of that, it was the anxiety that really kind of drove the path. That it was, regardless of where the anxiety came from, it was anxiety as a subject which really kind of had a grip over what I did on a day-to-day thing. And
do you
I
feel
didn't. Gone.
do you feel less anxious now that you've stopped?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, coupled with the ADHD medication that I take, um, my anxiety is like very low, very, very low. And it isn't just because of the medication, although the medication is used for people with anxiety issues, which is like a bonus. But even before I started taking the medication that I'm on, my anxiety had already subdued a lot. And it was because I got sober and I did a lot of inward work. Once I got sober and I had the space to kind of unpack everything and look at the issues that I had in my brain, the anxiety had less power, really. But when I was getting drunk and recovering, there was no space in my head to do the work that I needed to do. So yeah, it probably would have been quicker if I got a really good therapist, but I didn't, because all the therapy I've had has been quite shit, to be honest. And it's true. Like, I think therapy is amazing, and I think we should all be given a therapist at birth, to be honest, because life has a way of, like, there's a lot of kinks, and sometimes it's hard to figure out how to get rid of them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. But my therapists have all been crap.
I went to a therapist. The first therapist I ever went to, this was years ago. This was like a couple years after I left Spain, and I was like living in Ottawa, and I just like completely, I'd taken that dive head first into the world of just substance abuse. And so I ended up seeing a therapist, and he was like a weirdo. And we had our one session, and then I was supposed to go back like a week later or something. And they called me and said, unfortunately, we're gonna have to cancel because so and so, I forget his name, he's like not here. We're not too sure where he is.
Brilliant.
So I was like, okay. And so I ended up, like, they said the same thing the week after that. I never ever saw the guy again until I saw him on a street corner as a homeless guy.
Oh fuck.
And I was like, what was that all about? So I don't like, it was very confusing, and I kind of just left it. I was like, was he always homeless? And then just sort of like somehow managed, because he was such a strange guy. Like, he didn't seem like a proper therapist at all.
I mean, I wonder if he had a drink problem.
I think he did. So
I mean,
something was up.
I'm sure a lot of therapists get into therapy because they've got their own issues that on some level they're trying to find answers for. I had a beautiful girlfriend once upon a time. I mean, I do now, and I love her very much. But when I was much younger, and she ended up becoming a therapist, and she was batshit crazy.
That makes sense.
Definitely needed the psychology A level that she got.
I know someone, and if they're watching this podcast, they'll know who they are. So, but I'm not going to name them. but I know someone who is also batshit crazy that got into psychology, and I
Yeah,
was like, oh man,
yeah,
you,
yeah,
you of
right.
all people.
It's like, and then if they get the qualifications, then they'll be able to become a therapist. It's like they should have to go through more vigorous testing, you know?
Seriously, yeah,
Like you've got
seriously.
to have
Should talk to their friends. That's what that should be. Talk to their friends from like, their developmental years onto their 20s. Be like, what was this guy like? Was he,
yeah.
all right? But no, he's
And
absolutely crazy. Like,
like, and if their parents are still around, talk to their parents.
yeah.
Because if you see some like, like some problems with the parents, that's like, I think the majority of people's issues stem from childhood,
Oh, yeah.
from as little as 1, 2, 3 years of age. That's where a lot of this anxiety comes from.
Yeah. Well, you're like a sponge then, right? Like you sponge up all the everything, like the good and the bad, the
Yeah,
anxious,
and a lot of a
paranoid.
lot of a lot of parents from older generations were doing it wrong, man. Like this whole idea of you put a baby in a cot, and if it cries, you just let them cry it out. Like, what does that mean on a primal level? That baby then feels abandoned. So what does that happen? What happens to the neurology of a child who feels abandoned? Like
Yeah.
they create some seriously disconnected connections, man. Like you end up having a generation of anxious, drug-taking children or adults.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
100%. It's all
I
it's
mean,
all connected.
yeah, and a lot of people that end up getting into substance abuse, the only reason they're doing that is because they're trying to fill a void that needs filling. No one gets a drug problem by chance, by accident. It's because there's something missing. There's something that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. That's very
So
true.
I feel very passionately about
Do you ever miss drinking or doing
every
drugs?
day, every fucking
Every
day.
waking moment.
I yeah, I do. I miss. I don't think about it as much as I used to. I think when I got to like the 3 year mark, and when we had our child, it kind of life changed so much for me once Bella was born. Like I had a whole new appreciation for life, and for my own childhood just reflects a lot. But like on a sunny day, I think, man, it'd be nice to have a Corona, just with a slice of lemon. That'd be nice. Or sometimes I don't know, man. Sometimes like I see friends and they're out on the piss, and I'm like, oh yeah, that could be cool. But most of the time, it's not enough for me to be like, yeah, fuck it. I mean, in truth, I had a glass of champagne on New Year's Eve because I wanted to have a drink with my partner. We'd never had a drink before,
Mhm.
and I thought this doesn't ruin my sobriety if I have one drink, and I can do it as like a test to
Mhm.
see where I am with it. And I didn't particularly like it, but I never did like champagne. I don't know why I drank champagne. It just made me feel spacey.
That's
Rather
funny.
than,
So do you think
yeah.
that so for you, would you say that like drinking is not it's not something that you've quit, it's just something that you're kind of avoiding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I I will have another drink now and then when it's a special occasion.
Mhm.
Um, and because I know that I'm not physically dependent on alcohol, I
Mhm.
can take that risk. I think I was more psychologically dependent on alcohol. And a lot of people, well, potentially some people that are listening to this would be like, oh yeah, but that's what all alcoholics say. And it definitely is something some alcoholics say.
Mhm.
Um, but I know in myself where I stand with alcohol, and I know the relationship that I had with it, and it was never a physical need for it. It was a psychological need, and all those
Mhm.
psychological reasons that I needed it originally, I've I've dealt with all of that now. You know, all my mama and papa issues are sorted. Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, I have a much better understanding and relationship with alcohol now that I'm actually majority of the time sober than I ever did when I was just like on fucking freeway mode, no idea what I was doing, kind of thing. I don't know. I can't think of a good analogy, but I got it sorted, man.
That works.
If
Yeah.
if in a year's time I'm completely pissed, we'll do another chat and you can
That'd
tell
be
me.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about tattoos. So,
Yeah.
yeah, when did you get your first tattoo? What's your first tattoo? Can you even identify what your first tattoo is at this point?
Do you want to see it?
If it's some okay. Scorpion, nice.
Scorpion. So
Are you
it's gonna
Scorpio?
it will end up being covered because I've got a back piece which is
Oh,
like which will
okay.
be blacked out.
Yeah.
Well, it's a funny question there, Jordan. Am I a Scorpio? Because for a very long time I thought I was.
Did you think you were when you got the tattoo?
Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, fucking hope so. I'm a Virgo. I just like scorpions. No, my birthday is the 22nd of November, and it's on the cusp between Sagittarius and Scorpio. And I knew that actually, but I always felt like a Scorpio. I'm not that into astrology, but is astrology the right word?
It is, yeah. Astronomy is the other one.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always felt a bit more Scorpio. But now that I'm sober, I feel a bit more Sagittarius. So yeah, that was my first tattoo when I was 19. Actually.
19. Were you in Spain then?
Yes, I got it in a place in Marbella.
Nice.
From this lady, and it wasn't too painful actually. It was quite ticklish.
Were you drunk when you got it?
No. So
nice. Because there weren't any rules. I got my first tattoo in Spain, and I was drunk.
Really?
So right before I left, that was the first year I started actually partaking in drinking with my friends, and I figured tattoo was going to hurt.
Was it a spur of the moment decision, or was it?
No, I'd been thinking about it for a while. I wasn't certain what tattoo I was going to get, but I was like, I know I want to get a tattoo, and I want to get tattoos. Yeah. And so I just like scrounged together, leftover lunch money or something, and I went to this place. It was like a salon or something. It wasn't even a tattoo place. Like they did.
Yeah, they did that.
At the bottom of the list, it said tatuajes.
Yeah, it's mad, right?
Yeah.
I got my first piercings in a pharmacy. You just go in the back and they've got like a piercing gun. It was like 2 at the top.
What?
Like it's so wrong on so many levels. Even the fact that they use like a gun for the top cartilage.
Yeah, the cartilage. It's not how you're supposed to do that.
It's not good. It's not good.
So when you got that first tattoo, that scorpion, were you like, did you know immediately that you were going to be like where you are right now? Like heavily tattooed?
So throughout my teens, I was always fascinated in people that had a lot of tattoos, and I always knew that I wanted to be a part of it in some shape or form. And I remember being on the bus, not the school bus, the Costa del Sol worm bus or whatever.
Yeah.
And this guy came on the bus, and he was like covered neck, hands. And I just thought he was so fucking cool, man. I looked at him, I was like, and I didn't have any tattoos at that point. And I was like, I was already starting to think like, yeah, I might want to do that one day. But I never believed I would actually get that covered.
Mm-hmm.
I was very like, I don't know, I was raised very, not anti-tattoos, but like tattoos were for a certain type of person. And, the kind of view was very judgmental towards heavily tattooed people. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I got my first tattoo on my arm, because I always said I'd never get my arms tattooed. That was always my thing.
Wow.
And I remember I had my first small one. I don't know if you can see it. I'll send you a picture anyway, but this one, the dice.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember whenever I was in public transport, I would cover it with my other hand because I didn't want people to see it and then think ill of me. But
wow.
Then when I got into my mid-20s, I got my first sleeve, and the fuck it from there got significantly larger.
Yeah, that is kind of like the way to do it, right? Is like once you go past that point that you said, oh well, I won't do my arm anymore, or like hands. I feel like was always one of those ones where it's like it kind of gradually goes on. I'll go to the short sleeve, and then I'll go to the long sleeve. Not the hands, and then it goes to hands, and you're like, I've done the hands, fuck it.
Yeah. I got do you want to see some cringy tattoos? I love them.
Of course. Stay true.
Stay true.
Hey, that's
I believe in the thing. I maybe wouldn't get it tattooed on me now if I had a chance, but. And they were my first hand tattoos. And I remember sitting there like, man, am I going to do this? Because there's no going back. There's no going back when you get hand tattoos. This is as extreme as it gets. Little did I know that. Yeah, right.
You'd be sitting here with half your face tattooed.
Right.
That face tattoo it's really cool.
Yeah.
I really think it's cool.
Thank you.
It's like, this is probably like a super loaded question, but like, how did you come up with the set? Did you come up with the design, or did you work with a tattoo artist for that?
So I got the initial. So my initial face tattoo it's a B3, so it can be a B and it's a 3.
Okay.
And it signifies the 3 important ladies in my life. So my mother, whose name was Beatrice, my partner Briggy, and my daughter Bella. So it's a 3 generations all in one tattoo, side of my face. And I thought, we'll have one extreme tattoo and it will be that, and it's important enough for me to justify it in my head. And then, and I'd already been working in a tattoo shop in Barcelona before this, so I'd already come to terms with the fact that I was going to get quite covered. But then I started, okay, sorry, I've never been asked this question before, so I'm trying to put it together. So then, that was before, where are we?
Okay, so I don't know, this is your story.
I had my initial B on the side of my face tattooed, and that's when I was working actually as a cleaner in a hospital in the south of England, and I thought it would stay as that. Then me and the family moved up north because a good friend of mine who's a tattooist moved up there, and he wanted a social media manager, promoter, videographer, photographer on board. And I was like, me, please, me. So I started working with him, and it started going really well. And then about 6 months in, I was like, fuck it, I might end up working in the tattoo industry, like indefinitely. In which case, let's get some more face tattoos, right? And so I spoke to Peter, the guy that I work for / good friend, and I was like, oh man, I've been thinking about getting my face tattooed again, and I didn't really know what I wanted. I was initially thinking of like some Sanskrit on my face or some patterns and design work. And he looked at it, and he's the one that designed my neck and my chest, and he was like, oh well, we could put together some hexagons and it could wrap around the head and it would all fit in nicely with the rest of the tattoo that you've got. And I was like, dude, if you're up for doing it, like, I will let you do whatever you fucking want, because his work is like top of the game. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really good. And so I knew that whatever he was going to do, it was going to be good. And so then we shaved off all my hair. He planned it out. He figured out the mathematical equation to do it and all that shit. And then we just did it. And that was it. He put the hexagon pattern on, and it wraps around the whole half of my head. I can send you pictures. I'm sure you've seen it online anyway, but it wraps around there, and and that's where I am today. We have the other half of the head to
yeah, I was just about to say, like, is that the plan? Or you've got a plan for that, or?
So I will have a symbol, like a Tibetan style pattern in the middle of my forehead.
Okay.
Because my partner, she's getting, from Peter as well, she's getting 2 sleeves in the chest and the neck, and she's going to have the symbol in the middle.
Cool.
So we will kind of like matchy.
Oh.
Yeah. And the other half of my head, he's going to do in Tibetan style as well, a mandala, but Tibetan style, so quite floral, very elegant and flowy. And so then it will all kind of blend together. And then I've got some Tibetan work on the side here, which I might, maybe Jordan, I'm not sure, might go down here, but I'm not sure yet.
That's pretty cool.
It's forever evolving, but I don't want to have too much of my face covered, because then I'll just be a pair of eyes in a big color. Like, it's quite easy to overdo it. Some people would argue that I already have overdone it. But...
it's all relative. Would you think you'd ever tattoo over your birthmark?
I don't think it's possible.
Oh, really?
because it's blood capillaries close to the skin. It'll be a fucking mess actually. You'd have blood everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even if I were to cut it, it wouldn't stop bleeding for a long time. So I'm pretty sure you can't tattoo over it. But if you could, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
because I would keep the birthmark the way it is.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it might sound weird to say, but it suits you.
Yeah,
It really suits you. Like,
I used to feel a bit funny about that when people said that, but now I agree. Like I'm happy with it. Like
yeah.
I think I've grown a lot, man. Like I'm quite comfortable with
Mhm.
the way that I look now, and I'm comfortable with getting my face tattooed, obviously.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many people get heavy facial tattooing and then spend many years dealing with society that doesn't always like it. And it's like, what did you expect, man? Like
Yeah.
it's a big jump. Like neck and hands is one thing, but when you get your face tattooed, it's a different game. Like you're gonna get stared at. It's part of the package. And I don't notice it unless I'm thinking about it, because I'm quite used to people looking anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyone who wants to get like a significant amount of work done on their face, like brace yourself, because it's a lot of people just don't get it. They just don't.
Well, I remember you were talking about in your YouTube video about your face tattoo. You're talking about how like it's people have this weird reaction because it's like this level of confidence that someone would have to tattoo their face is something that
Mm,
maybe it's like the level of confidence that that individual's looking for, and then when they see someone with their face tattooed, they're like, shit, I wish I could do that, but all the restrictions that society's put on, I would never be able to do that, or just my
mm,
own like internal restrictions towards something like that. I think that's a pretty interesting outlook on that, because I think that is true for a part of society, but I think also there's a part of society that's like kind of looking at it from a bit more of a like a different angle, where it's like people
go on.
think that if someone tattoos their face, there must be
Yeah,
something
wrong with
unhinged
them.
about them or something, you know? And if they're willing to do that to their own face, then what
Yeah,
else are they capable of?
yeah.
You know?
It's it's a bizarre concept though, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is really the difference between? I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit disconnected to it, but where's the connection between getting tattooed and there being something unhinged about someone?
It's because of the repression. It's because no one's used to it, right? Like
Mm,
people are more accepting of hand tattoos and sleeves because so many people have them these days. And I think
yeah,
that it's still fairly uncommon to see someone with, full face tattoos. Like
yeah,
those tattoos that you see, like Post Malone and stuff have like the scripture underneath there. Like that's becoming more common. And I feel like that's even more acceptable. But those people that you see on like those YouTube channels like Truly and
yeah.
all that stuff like that, those are still people that become spectacles, right? Because people are like, whoa, I've never seen that before. Like, whoa, this guy
No,
must be out of his mind.
freaks. Yeah, 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 freaks. It's fun. Like I remember the first person that I saw that was covered was the lizard man, and the
Yeah.
guy who's got scales. This guy is so normal. Like he's so down
Hmm.
to earth. I've got a friend who's um I mean, he's tattooed his entire body black. His whole face is just black. And when you first look at him, you're like, what the fuck is he doing? And then you talk to him, and like quite quickly you don't notice it. Like it's not relevant to the person.
Hmm.
We all pick up damage along the way, right? But I don't see the connection. Like
No.
you've got people taking drugs and being misogynistic and going out hunting or whatever. Like, well, these are my judgments now. But there's people out there doing what I would consider bad things, and it's like, because you can't see it branded on their skin, they kind of just, no one would judge them. But then as soon as someone decides to put a bit of art on their face, suddenly, I don't know. I don't know. I think it is a thing about exposure, and I think that I want more people to get their face tattooed. Like, let's make it not a thing. It's not.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be a thing. I think it should be something that we can all appreciate or have a conversation about. But
totally.
people, but some people have a really strong physical reaction negatively towards it. I
Hmm.
mean, But that, I mean, that's why I try and combat that with just kindness and laughter, because I don't particularly, I don't want to go down that path of getting angry because someone else is angry, because it's a them problem. It really is a them problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to help their problem by getting angry. If anything, I'm going to justify it. So
Totally. Yeah. No, for sure. Like, I mean, I think that that's, you know, it's like one of those things. I think people, when they see someone heavily tattooed or face tattooed and stuff, it makes them question their own internal values, and they're lost in a sort of world of confusion by it, and then
they
that makes them
are,
angry.
they are.
And you know, I
Yeah, no,
think
it threatens their safety zone. Do you know what I mean? It
Mhm.
makes them feel unsure, and it confuses them even more if they end up liking you and talking to you and realizing that you're quite well grounded as a human.
Yeah.
They become very complexed.
But that's a pretty good feeling though, right? Like I feel like I mean it's probably more rewarding for you because you got so many tattoos, but I feel like there's been times where, you know, like I walk into an elevator or something and I'm not as heavily tattooed as you, but I still depending on the person, you'll
Yeah,
get that kind of vibe like, oh,
definitely,
they don't feel comfortable, or like, oh, what's this guy about or something. And then, you
definitely,
know, like I'll be like, oh, what floor are you on? Let me press the button for you. Oh, you need a hand with
definitely.
that thing or something. And then they're kind of like looking at me like, oh shit, like, yeah, I got to do this like mathematical equation in my head, which is like, I thought this guy was like the devil. Now he's a saint. What the fuck?
Yeah,
So
what's going on? Yeah, no one likes to, I mean, not many people like to look at themselves and go, oh shit, that was a me problem. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, for sure. No one does.
Like, um, and I proactively try to make eye contact with people and smile on the street, but I've had a head start with the birthmark. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It took me a long time to get comfortable with that. Um, and so, like now, when I go into a shop or if I'm in a restaurant or anywhere, I'll make eye contact and smile and let them know that I'm not a threat. Because often people will just look at you and, I mean, I get it. I appreciate that people are scared because they've got like a preconception of what a tattoo person's like.
Mhm.
But I'm still gonna fucking smile at you, you know?
Kill him with kindness,
Yeah. And then I fucking headbutt them.
and kill him for real, and kill them for real. But yeah, no, I think that that's it's fascinating. Like, do you know at what point, like, at what's the percentage of tattooed skin to untattooed skin on your body at this particular
Mm,
moment in your life? Is that even something that, like, people say that all the
uh,
time on like YouTube documentaries? They're
I
like, this
know,
guy
and
has 75% of his body. I'm like, what? How? What? Who figured
yeah,
out that percentage?
and it's such a flimsy percentage because you can't really calculate it. Um, but I guess, well, more than 50. I've got I've got some space on my thighs, inner thighs. My stomach isn't tattooed in the middle. I won't be getting my genitalia tattooed.
Is that
And
because what's the
I
reason
don't,
for not getting that?
I don't want to put my dick in a tattooist's hand. If I could tattoo, I'd probably do it. I don't
Oh
know what
yeah,
I'd do. Not very much.
be
A couple of
painful, wouldn't
maybe put an apostrophe on it. It's all painful.
it?
It's all painful. Yeah, it's a funny question when people go, but don't they hurt? It's like, yeah, 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 it does.
You ever
So
use
does life.
the you ever
So
use
does
the
life, bitch.
life hurts a lot more than tattoos, I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But do you ever get the numbing cream?
I've used numbing cream. I mentioned numbing cream on my TikTok just a couple of weeks ago, and there was uproar.
You know,
One
it's
guy, only pussies use numbing cream. I'm like, dude, get your nipple tattooed. You fucking use numbing cream, man. I don't need to
seriously.
feel that to feel like a man. I don't need to earn my fucking stripes. Put as much numbing cream as you've got on my
Oh,
nipples.
totally, totally. That's like I've heard the same thing, and it's so funny because I only learned about numbing cream like two tattoos ago,
Yeah.
and because it was like I forgot which one it was, but it was the tattoo artist was saying like this is a painful area. Would you like some numbing cream? And I was like, what the fuck is numbing cream?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then she brought it
We've
out.
got
It's
loads here. Oh, we've got loads here. I'm in the tattoo studio.
oh nice, yeah, that's such a cool place. What is that? A fish behind you?
This is a scut. Hold on.
Oh, I
Fish.
see, I see. It's like a
Fish.
hey, you know what? You look at the footage that I'm looking at later. It looks like a fish. Look at that shape.
Really? No, I can see where you get. Hold on. There we go.
Oh my,
I don't.
yeah.
I think it's half a horse's head.
Wow.
We've got other stuff in there.
It's pretty cool.
We had a. I think I can say this now. No. We had a. I might tell you afterwards to bleep this out, but we had a polar bear skull, which is like super illegal.
Yeah.
And
sure.
My boss found out just how illegal it was. It's like 10 years in prison, like no questions. And so he went down to the beach with like a mallet hammer and just smashed it smithereens and put it in the sea. It's worth like silly amount of money. But
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was such a cool skull as well.
Tattoo shops, I feel like they're always so like exotic. There's always so many like cool little artifacts and stuff in tattoo shops.
Yeah, it's because they're fucking rich, man.
They can afford polar bear skulls.
Man, tattooists make serious money, and I get it. Like it's justifiable. Like they put in a lot of man hours of research and practice and learning the craft. But shit,
yeah, it's art.
Big
it's
money.
Really intense art, and you can't really fuck up. You know, like you fuck up on a piece of paper and then you throw it out and start again. But you can't just like
fuck up on someone's skin, man. Unless you black it out, you can black stuff out.
Is that blacked out because there was fuck ups beneath it?
No, there was. I got an Egyptian ankh cross here. One point, really, when I was at uni, it was really shit. And then I did black out that bit, and then I just started working my way up. Because I liked the way it looked. I liked the simplicity of it. You know, you're seeing a lot in tattoo culture now, more and more black arms popping up, people getting black arms, and that was quite underground like 15, 20 years ago. Like it was fucking cool. Like no one's got that. Well, I thought it was fucking cool. And but now it's like people are just going straight into a black arm. Like they're not covering up anything. But you definitely can cover up a fucked up sleeve. You know?
Yeah. That's
can
interesting.
I ask you? Go on.
No, you go first.
How have you envisioned how far you will go with your tattoo journey?
I don't know. I mean, I have and I haven't. You know, it's like I'm always open to the possibility. You know, I feel like I never knew when I got my first tattoo. I knew that I wanted tattoos, but I didn't know what exactly. I mean, I kind of pictured sleeves and stuff like that. And as I've been going, like I'm kind of just like getting little ones, you know. So there's no cohesion or anything like that to it.
You're a collector.
I'm a collector, and I feel like they're all like, you know, most of my stuff it looks like that though. Like if you look at my guitar, it's got 1,000 stickers on it, like skateboards covered in stickers. It's just like for me, it's like passport stamps. You know, it's like these are all from different spots or like different moments in my life and stuff like that, and they all have some sort of meaning, even though some of them seem really stupid. But
no, I love that, man. And I think there's something very classic about just being a tattoo collector and every little tattoo having meaning. Like I think it's amazing some of the people that just get bodysuits that have all been planned and it's all cohesive and it all flows, it's all symmetrical and it's like work of art. But there's not as much, dare I say it, like there's not as much of a story to it.
Yeah.
But like back in Brighton, you'd see a lot of people have lots of odd tattoos all over the place, to the point where people would get a sleeve of that, like in one go. So they're replicating people's stories, man. Like people like spend their lives building a story, and they're just like, yeah, I want a sleeve of stories. It's like you're missing the point somewhere, but fuck it.
You got to get your own stories. Yeah, I feel like a lot of, I mean, of that like patchy sort of, you know, little tattoo stuff. It's kind of like reminiscent of like old prison tattoos and stuff like that. I guess we just get little ones bit by bit and stuff. It's like Sailor Jerry and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But, and then you just fill it up with little stars to fill the sleeve with little.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are people that I've talked to that are like, oh, I just really like the way that like prison tattoos look, so I'm gonna get a sleeve of like just a bunch of random shit, like an eagle and like some, you know, like a tombstone.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the States, the American traditional tattoos. definitely got a style and an aesthetic to it. And some people are so loyal to just having that look, like the Eagles and I can't remember what else they have, but it's like typically it's just 3 colors and it's very basic and very like army looking type. But I think it's cool, man.
Do you ever do your tattoos ever like raise and like bump up and stuff like that and get itchy?
Yeah, yes, I've got. So I had like, I can't remember what it's called now, but it was a basic black pattern on the top of my right shoulder, and the guy that did it was pushing too hard. He was a bit of a not an amateur, but he didn't know what he was doing in terms of heavy black work. And he just completely butchered my skin. And so like now I've got a lot of scarring here. It's all black now, but it just kind of looks like scarification actually, which I kind of like. It's like a modification almost, but it's not itchy so much, but it's raised like a couple of millimeters.
Do you think that like any other form of body modification outside of tattooing would be something that you'd partake in?
I want to get my ears pointed.
Really?
Yeah, man, they're fucking cool. Look. I know who I want to get it done as well, but how cool does that look?
That would be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Is it what is that? What is the procedure like? That they
well,
do you have to cut some of your ear off, or do you gotta like?
There's the cheap way, and then there's the professional way. So the cheap way is they just staple it, and it kind of heals disgustingly. The expensive way, and we're talking about $7,000 for both ears, is they make an incision here and they remove the outer layer of the ear here, so it will be dangling here, and they remove a little bit of the cartilage here, and then they put it back together and then put back on the skin, and then the skin, which is all intact, then has a bit of a point. As opposed to being curved.
Okay.
The nice thing about the procedure is that it looks quite natural. There's no scarring, and as you grow old, it just works with the ear, and it looks as if you were born with pointy ears. It's beautiful. Yeah.
So what?
So I would do that. Yes.
What would inspire pointy ears? Like just aesthetics, or is it? I mean, the obvious connection that I'm kind of putting together here is elves. Are you a fan of elves?
No, not particularly. It's not an elf thing or a fairy thing. There's nothing too mysterious. I kind of like the alien-esque kind of look to it. It looks inhuman. I think society in general is a bit too obsessed with being human, and we're not. No, I just like the way it looks. I just like the way it looks. I think it's cool, man. I think it's really cool.
It sounds cool. That's exciting. So would you, is that where it would end, or are there other areas of modification that you've kind of given some thought to?
I don't know. I don't know. Now that I've got my face tattooed, I think I'm pretty much done. I almost got scarification on my face before the tattoos. I just wanted like kind of tribalistic scars going across and down. Again, just because I like the aesthetic. But now, no, not really. I can't be bothered with all the pain, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
What do you think about?
I think the ears would be good.
That'll be very fascinating. I think we should do another episode once you get that done.
Yeah.
What do you think about people that have like those super extreme like body modifications? Like there's that dude in South America who's like just like Red Skull or whatever, and he's like not got a nose.
Yeah, there's also on Instagram, you can follow him now. He's got like 400,000 followers, called the Black Alien.
Okay.
It's a French guy. He's one to watch because he is very active, changing all the time. He's completely blacked out. He's bodybuilder, no ears, no nose, and implants above and below the eyes. So he's got like, he's the Black Alien. I say, at the end of the day, body modification is a spectrum. And so for someone who's just got their ears pierced, they might not be able to fathom someone who gets their tongue pierced. They might be like, oh, that's extreme. And then someone who gets, their face tattooed might think, oh man, I would never chop off my nose. That's insane. but it's a spectrum. Like everybody's just, some people are a bit further down the line. And I think a lot of people, like the further you go, the less extreme it seems,
Hmm.
you know?
That makes sense.
And a lot of these people are in the tattoo industry and in, you know, these industries where you spend a lot of time with people that are modified.
Hmm.
So it doesn't seem as extreme. It just seems more aesthetically pleasing, you know? And the more tattoos you get, the like the more you see the leftover space.
Oh
So
yeah.
it just makes sense to change it up. And I guess when people get completely covered in tattoos, it's like modification makes sense. It's the next step.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been fascinated by it though, like on a psychological level. Like, are they stable? Are they okay? But I guess you could ask the same question to people that get a lot of plastic surgery, right? Like people who have a lot of lip filler until they
Hmm.
look painful, you
Yeah.
know, or they get so much Botox they can't move their face. Like
Yeah.
it's this whole question between what's modification and what's mutilation.
Yeah.
And I think it's individual, you know. I think if you're of sane mind and you're in a good place and you feel stable, really, and you're not doing it because you need that external validation, then I think fucking go for it. But if you're doing it because you're addicted to the whatever, the attention or the need to change your face, then there's a root cause that isn't going to go away until
Hmm.
you face it, you know. So I think it's individual.
I'm gonna look up this black alien guy right
The
now.
black alien,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah,
take a
do
look
it.
at this. The
So
black
yeah,
alien.
yeah. So while you do that, I'll tell you. So I was always fascinated, like, what's he like as a person? I'd never heard him speak. I never heard him do anything.
Ooh,
And then he had an
wow.
interview with a guy in Barcelona, and he seems so normal, so confident, and very like matter of fact. Like, and I love that. I just love that for the body modification community, that he's just like, yeah, man, like if you want to think what you want to think, do it. That's fine. If you want to talk to me about it, I'll talk to you about it. Like, there's no like sinister hidden agenda or like, oh man, that
Mhm.
guy's fucked up. Like, he's just a dude. He's just a dude that went really far on the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, wow. Yeah, these pictures. This is pretty intense. This is definitely the, I would say, most modified person I've seen, I
And
think.
he's done it. I'm trying to think of this other guy, right? There's these two guys. There's the black alien. There's another guy in South America because they go crazy on their bod mods. But oh, I don't want to spend too long looking for it, but I'll have to send it to you. I can't look at
Yeah.
my phone because I get distracted too easily. But but he's,
There's, yeah, this is intense.
pardon me. There's another guy that kind of doesn't like the black alien. Well, he actually adores the black alien, but the black alien doesn't like him.
Okay.
And so there's like a bit of an online feud between them.
Wow. Okay.
This other guy keeps copying in inverted commas his body modifications. Not that I think there should
Really?
be. Yeah, right. Anyway, one of his he's another one that has no nose, has no ears, lots of implants all over his face, completely tattooed. But he's recently had the sides of his lips cut. Like maybe if you can imagine a couple of centimeters from the corners of your lips going up.
Mhm.
So and like removed. So it's like his smile goes like that. Sorry for listeners, but like if you can imagine, you know, when you get like a cut on the side of your lips,
Yeah.
there's crisps or something. Like imagine that place and then cutting it right in.
It's like
So
like the Joker.
like here. Yeah, exactly. So it goes like to here. It's open. So when he opens his mouth, it's like
Oh
when he
my
closes
God.
his mouth, you can see the holes. It's
Okay.
extreme.
We got to find a photo of that to pull that
Yeah,
up
yeah,
for the
yeah.
visuals later.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
wow, that's, yeah. I mean, like, does modification like that have any impact on, like your bodily functions? Like, are you able to
I
like
mean,
eat or contain the saliva in your mouth? Okay, if your mouth is like wider than it naturally is.
I don't know about that, but there is a reason we have a nose, man.
That's what I was thinking when I
Like
saw, these people without noses. I was like, is
there
that
there
must
must
affect
be
you somehow.
Yeah, there must be health implications to it. I mean, we've got hairs in our nose just to keep things from going into our system, right? We've got ears on our fucking head because it's protecting what's just behind it. You know, we've got eardrums. I mean, yeah, it doesn't on that side of things. It's definitely a risk. But then any plastic surgery comes with risks. So I like to think these people are, you know,
informed
everyone
enough about the risks before they do this.
You'd like to think so. It definitely happens where people are getting these bod mods in underground places by people that don't give a shit about the risks. But I mean, everyone has to make their own decision, really. There's a lot of plastic surgeons that are working on people that definitely shouldn't be getting another procedure, shouldn't be going up a size or down a size or getting this removed or whatever. But they do it. Like, money.
It's a lot of money in the plastic surgery industry. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. It's interesting too, because like with body modification, it's like it kind of almost has to be done underground, right? Because it's not really. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Is there like, because you can't use like anesthetic and stuff, right? Because it's not.
They do.
They do. Okay.
They do. I mean, the guy that does the ears uses local anesthetic.
Okay.
And he's actually trained by an anesthetist.
That's exactly how you pronounce that.
And he's surgically trained by professionals, so he knows what he's doing. But yeah, obviously it's all completely illegal. And often, if you want to get these bod mods, you need to do it through someone who knows someone, sort of thing. It's not like you can just call up.
Yeah, which is so weird, right? It's like
it's a shame.
It's a lot of money, but it's almost like it's like being like a drug dealer or something, you know, like you make your fortune from illegally dealing drugs. But
it was only a few years ago, there was a bod modder in, I think it was in London, and he got put away. He got like time in jail for doing it. And I can't remember, but it was quite a heavy sentence, and he was made an example of. You know, they were trying to make a statement. And so that just pushed it even more underground. Like anyone that did modifications, it's like very hush hush. And so, you know, you need to know someone in the industry to get it.
Like, how do you feel about like someone like that getting, you know, this judicial penalty for doing stuff like this that clients are actually asking for? Like, should he be at fault for it?
I think it's bullshit. And I think the system's probably used loopholes to justify it. Like they probably said like, oh, he was like tax avoidance or this or that, or because you would never be able to put someone away for saying you've mutilated another human being if it's
consensual.
You know, yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because that reminds me of I did this podcast a couple years ago. People ask me, you know, like, because I don't know if you got a chance to listen to much of the Dark Room podcast series, but there's some pretty interesting individuals on there, and a lot of times people ask the question like, who's the most like, just like the wildest or like the most fucked up shit that you heard on that show. And it wasn't even really on that show. It was kind of after the fact, but we interviewed a dominatrix here in Toronto who castrates men.
Okay.
And so we ended up like we did the podcast with her, and then we ended up like following her. The idea was we were going to make a short documentary about, you know, her being a dominatrix and what goes on in the life of a dominatrix. Yeah. And so she told us that there was this client of hers that wanted to get his dick cut off, and we had the opportunity to film it. And so
the whole dick.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, this is going to be intense, but you know, whenever would you get this opportunity? And this is going to be intense, so maybe we should do it. Thankfully we didn't. She ended up showing me like some photos of the procedure, and oh my, like this all took place in a car, like in a parking lot somewhere. And this guy was in the passenger seat, and like the procedure. And I apologize to all the listeners that don't want to hear this.
Shall I do the sound effect?
Oh, you don't even have to. Like it's so she would tie like rubber bands around her clients' penises. Yeah. Leave them there for a couple weeks, stop the circulation. What? Yeah. So basically, by the time that she revisited them, their dicks were basically already blackened and about to fall off, and then she could just easily scalpel through that and cut it off. And I was like,
I did
"Oh
not
my!"
expect that.
Yeah, neither did I. I was, and I saw the photos. I saw the
Man,
photos,
but
Haywood.
that is such a long way of doing it, right? Like,
Yeah, I know. It's like you got to think about that. Like you're at home, looking
but
down. You're like, I still want to do this. So,
did these men do it knowing the procedure and wanting that lengthy amount of time to? But you see, there's different levels to it there, because there's people, like I've heard of people where they have like there's a limb that they want to remove because they don't
Mhm,
feel like it feels connected to them. So it could be a finger or a hand or an arm, and they
mhm.
don't feel like it belongs to their body, so they remove it. But that's instant.
Yeah,
So I can only imagine that would happen to certain people with a penis that feel like they shouldn't have a penis on their body, and so you remove it. I mean, I'm talking regardless of gender. I'm
sure.
just
Yeah,
like this
why ever?
penis
Yeah, you
doesn't,
might.
right.
Yeah,
But that's a different thing.
right. Yeah, because you got all that time. Like that's another experience in itself. Is
There's another level to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah, it was
fucking fascinating. I love that shit.
super fascinating, but also super super disgusting. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that's
the
twisted and dark, man. And I mean,
I mean, do what you want in your life. I mean, I don't even mean that it's disgusting necessarily to want that or anything or to go through that procedure. But these
no,
photos
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
showing, like, oh my goodness. I mean, I saw
It's
it.
yeah, yeah. It's visually shocking, isn't it? Did you
Absolutely.
ever see on? Did you ever see Pain Olympics?
Yeah. Yeah. So of course, of course.
Like that was a big one, right?
I've never seen the
God,
actual Olympics, but I've seen all the Pain Olympics
right,
videos.
right, right. Man, that I mean, there's some extreme people out there, but I guess like if that's what they want to do, like even did you? Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it. The account of the was it in Germany? The guy that ate the other guy.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. He cut off his penis too, right?
Yeah, he cut off their penis and
He was
they failed to cook it. They cooked it too. They overcooked his penis. They couldn't eat it.
Oh, geez.
I
That's
mean,
that's a waste of a penis.
I mean, I some people would say like the what it is. Yeah, right. Some
Didn't even
people
get
would
to
say
eat it.
like, what a shame, right? They didn't even get to, after all that organizing. What a fucking mess. You can only get for like one attempt at that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a strange one, man. I would love to like do. I would love to read the research on what these people are going through.
It's truly fascinating. I mean, it's part of the reason why, we started the podcast show is there's so much that's in the shadows that people are afraid of. And it's just like you shine a light over there. And sometimes, yeah, it is a little scary to look in that corner, that dark corner, but there's also so much to learn from it. It's like
Yeah,
we're ultimately there's a lot of commonalities between people, even the people that are like, looking at other people being like, whoa, what the heck? I would never do that. Person's insane or whatever. It's like they've got their reasons. They're doing it for certain things, and you do things that somebody else might consider insane.
right. I mean, I think often like a lot of the damage that people pick up is very similar to other people's damage. It's just how we deal with it.
Hmm.
And like some people get a face tattoo, and some people eat their neighbor's dick.
Totally. Yep.
And
That's
it's like
it's yeah.
it's just how it
Whatever makes you,
goes.
whatever
Whatever
satisfies you
works,
in your life, and
whatever works, man.
if you want to do that, if it's not really impeding anyone else's happiness, then what the hell?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we can, like we're not advocating
Cutting off your dick
cannibalism,
and, and
right?
eating it. Well, if you want to cut off your own dick and eat it,
That should be your like. Is that illegal? Are
I
people
don't know.
allowed to do that? Like,
I
if
don't
body
know.
modification is illegal, are you allowed to chop off your own? I know people that have chopped off their fingers.
People that have chopped off their fingers.
Yeah, the dude that's blacked out.
Yeah.
He had a lot of body modifications. He had huge tunnels in his nose, but like
Mhm.
huge. He had a massive lip plate. Not when I met him, but before.
Yeah.
And he was like that. He missed his
His
what's
ring
that
finger.
finger called?
The
Yeah, the
ring
ring
finger.
finger was taken
Wow.
down to the bottom knuckle.
Jesus. So what does a procedure like that look like? Is it just some guy with a big
It's
pair of scissors,
no, it's a guy with
like bolt cutters?
what's that? No, it's that tool that you can. I guess you carve wood with it. Chisel.
Oh, wow. That's
Chisel,
actually much more horrifying.
chisel to the knuckle, and then it's butch.
Ah,
That'll
that's
do it.
that's the preferred method by the body modification community.
I can't speak for everyone, but that's what they did that Thursday evening. No, I don't know. I
Okay.
just don't know.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
I
pretty hardcore.
I will tell you this though. He had a really heavy scarification job done on his face afterwards. Going, Eli, if you're listening to this, man, I love you, dude. I'm just sharing your story, just in case. Okay, he's a good guy, but he got a huge piece of skin that goes across his cheek, over his nose, and then up the other side of the cheek. Man, that fucking thing was so deep. It was like just the raw flesh underneath. Like it was unbelievably deep. And then when it was healing back, it healed back in a way where the skin was getting pulled in to the scar. Because I mean, in my personal opinion, it was done too deeply.
Hmm.
Man, this guy's had like all of his body tattooed and more body modifications than like you can imagine. And he said that was the most painful thing that's ever happened. And I'm sure they used anesthetic.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can use. Like if you get past the skin, like you're playing with nerves and shit. And he's a really super nice guy. Like he's a really super nice guy. He just loves getting body modifications. And honestly, I've sorry to keep it interrupting, but I've met a lot of like damaged individuals across the board, like modified and not modified, and he's no further up than a lot of them. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got his things, but he's not like deeply what's the fucking word? He's not deeply disturbed. Like he just likes getting stuff done. It's like when people say like, why do you get all the tattoos? Like I like the way it looks. Like that's about as deep as it goes for me. And and I've noticed that there's been other positives that have come from it. But I'm not sure they were intentional, maybe on a subconscious level, but yeah.
That's so fascinating. Do you know if this person you're talking about who's got these heavy body modifications with the finger cut off, did they keep that part of the finger that came off? They put it in a little jar.
I'm not sure, but he's got something else that he kept. I'm not sure I don't think it's his finger. I think it's his nipple.
Oh.
or the skin from his face. That, I mean, well, I don't want to get anything chopped off anyway, but I don't think I'd keep it. But there's definitely a thing where people keep the digit or whatever they've chopped off, and that's shock value, man. It's like when you're in that kind of world, and to you it's not that intense and that crazy to get scars or tattooed face or your eyeballs injected with ink. To keep a digit is kind of just like it's a fuck you to people that think it's weird. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
It's
yeah.
just
I feel like I feel like I would want to keep that. Like I don't know, maybe it's because of my internal need to like aggravate or shock people or something, but
yeah, right.
That seems like, I don't know, like because I'm fascinated with all that stuff. You know, it's like if I go like if I went to the hospital and I had like they put one of those like little internal cameras, you know.
Yeah.
I did had like a endoscopy.
Yeah.
I was like, can I have the footage? And they all looked at me like I was weird.
Yeah.
I was like, it's interesting, you know.
It is
like
interesting, and it's unusual to be in that kind of position where you can see inside. Like
exactly, like and I'm out while it's happening, so I don't get to see the footage. They all get to see that. That'd be crazy for me to like have a copy of you know, the inside of my body. Like they're like, oh, we don't save any of the footage.
That's a shame. I remember when after we had the baby, they have to do certain tests and check that everything's okay with the lady, and they had to do similar. They had to put a camera inside her and stuff. And like I obviously I went in there with her, and I was fascinated to watch. She didn't have a problem with me watching. I don't think she'd have a problem with me sharing the story either. But it was super fascinating, and it looks so like detached from what it is anyway. Like it looks like its own little world.
Yeah,
and it is. I mean, but yeah, no. If I chop off my dick, I won't keep it.
What would you do with it? You just throw it in the garbage? Would you
I'd probably fry it?
Fry? Yeah, try it. Try cook it properly. There you
or
go.
I'd dehydrate it so I can humiliate myself even more. If I thought if I thought I saw it cold when it was attached, if I thought I could see it small and it was attached cold, I'd dehydrate it and see what it looks like then.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Do you think
Wait,
you'll ever get your neck tattooed or your face?
I've often considered the neck. I think it's kind of what you're talking about. It's that sort of progression where I think
Mm.
that I wouldn't think about necessarily getting my face tattooed because I don't have any neck tattoos. I feel like if I got a neck tattoo, then I might start thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot. I mean, I guess like I'm kind of somewhere like I have tattoos and
Yeah.
I feel like I understand tattoos and I feel like I understand why people get tattoos, even though there's a huge spectrum, obviously, but I don't have a problem with people getting tattoos at all. But at the same time, there's apprehension in me to
Mhm.
get like the super visible tattoos that society
Definitely.
deems like weird. So I'm like kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of that circle, where it's like
Yeah.
I'd
It's
like to
a,
think that I'm above that, but like I'm probably just like
yeah,
it's like
man.
the
I
other
mean,
people are like, well, it's gonna affect my life somehow.
yeah, no, I mean, I completely get it. And I mean, like I was in a way, I was in a privileged position when I started getting hands and neck tattooed because I had already had a lifetime of being stared at because of the birthmark. So, and I feel like the transition wasn't as, I mean, it was when I started on my arms, but that was because of like, growing up thinking, oh yeah, people are going to judge me. But once I got over that, it was like kind of easy.
Mhm.
Um, and I do say to people, I'm like, as soon as you get your neck done, like prepare yourself for it because people are going to look at you differently.
Mhm.
And some people aren't. It's a different. And if you're a good looking bloke or a good looking lady, like you might be used to getting stared at anyway
Mhm.
because people like pretty, but the stares change. And I mean, I can only say that for as a person who had a birthmark and was never sure why they looked at me anyway. But the stares changed from when I got my neck tattooed, and then the stares changed again when I got my face tattooed, and then even more when I got my most recent piece on my face. Um, but I was comfortable enough to not care
Mhm.
from the inside. It didn't change. It didn't make me feel uncomfortable in any way. It's just interesting to observe. It's interesting to see just how much it changes people's initial look. But
Were
regardless, go on.
were your like friends and family like did you give them much prep before you got your face done?
Mm, about as much prep as I'm going to get my face tattooed next week.
And what was the initial reaction to that?
Don't do it. It's always been don't do it. When it was, and it's kind of been a running joke for myself, really. That's why I told them.
Mhm.
Like before, when it was like arms, I would get people going like, "Oh yeah, but don't tattoo your legs." And then when I got all of that done, it was like, "Okay, but don't tattoo your hands." And then it was like, "I'm going to tell you just before." And then when it was the neck, it was like, "I'm going to get my neck tattooed." Oh, Heywood, don't do it, don't do it. I mean, I'm already booked in. Like it doesn't matter. And then the face is the same. It's like, oh, I'm going to get my face tattooed. No, don't do it. And part of me is just like, this is brilliant. Like you still don't get it, do you? It doesn't matter what other people think
Mhm.
because you're living you. You're just doing you. And everyone who's ever said like, don't do it, don't do your face, don't do that, like now they're just like whatever, and they don't care. I haven't lost any friends or family because of it. Like,
Mhm.
and honestly, like the people that matter the most, they shouldn't give a shit.
Mhm.
They shouldn't. And if they do, that is a them problem, and it's a shame because I know it does happen, but it's a
What
shame.
has it who's had the worst reaction to it?
Mm, probably probably like mums of my friends where
Mhm.
they're like, and it's not so much a bad reaction, it's just a very narrow-minded one and an unthought out reaction where they will say their opinion, which is a bit very much like, oh, but you'll ruin your good looks and people will judge you. And it's like, yeah, but that's what you're doing. There's this. So like you think it will ruin my good looks, and first of all, thank you for thinking I'm good looking in the first place. But second of all, you're the one that's judging me before I've had it done. And you know, that shit like that, it's a shame because they don't get it. Like they're still concentrating too much on external factors like tattoos. Like, well, you ask me how I'm doing, like that's more important. You know, the tattoos aren't a direct mirror to what's going on the inside, as some people might think. It's the relationship isn't there. It's a lot more complicated than that. You know, people are more complicated than that. You have a lot of fucked up people with no tattoos, and you know, very, very damaged human beings with no tattoos. It just doesn't. There's no correlation between how fucked up you are and how tattooed you are.
What would your sentiments be towards your daughter when she's of age to get tattoos and want to get her face tattooed?
She absolutely does what she wants. It's her body. You know, me and my partner's whole perspective on raising a child is to make sure they're safe and let them find their way. You know, we're never going to force her to study a subject or to do anything. We will just expose her to as much varied possibilities as we can, and whatever she gravitates towards and enjoys doing, like, we'll embrace it no matter what it is.
I like that approach a lot, you know, because it's like I feel like people like yourself and people that are kind of more, I don't know, like savvy to life, you know, they're like, I feel a lot of parents back, you know, in the 90s when we were growing up or whatever, it's like they were telling you what you can't do, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like should be telling us what we can do.
It's so detrimental. I remember I always wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a TV presenter, even when I was a kid. That's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to make films and shit like that. And I was always told that the industry is so difficult to get into, and you need to do a job that's going to be stable and secure. And I used to make stupid videos on my camera. This is before YouTube. I used to do stupid skits on the camera just to watch back for myself. But that, like, that continuous, like, being told that it's not gonna have any value, it's not gonna work for you, like, it's gonna be too difficult, da 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 da. It put me in a headspace where I believed it. And that's fine. Like, I don't, you know, parents do the best job that they can, I believe. But if it had been embraced and kind of lifted, I would have been one of the first fuckers on YouTube. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And those guys are like living the creative dream, right? Like, they're making a living from YouTube. Like, can you imagine making a living from being creatively free and doing what you enjoy doing? Like, that's on any job. Like, any job, if you enjoy your job, you're laughing and getting paid for it. Shit, man.
Totally. Yeah, there's so many of those squandered opportunities because our parents just like were kind of pre-programmed to say like all this is unrealistic and just everything. I mean, it's funny. I tell my parents like all the time now, they hate this. Like, you know, I'm really glad I started smoking weed because it really worked out for me, you know, like all the other stuff that you guys wanted me to do. I mean, realistically, I wasted a lot of money in like, and then not that this is like a good model to follow or anything like that. It's just an example of one of the many ways that you can live your life. But, you know, like I went to all these like post-secondary institutions and I didn't end up in any of those fields that I wanted to get. I mean, I dabbled in the film industry. I still do, but like, it's, you know, these are hard industries to get into fully. And like, if you're working freelance, it's like great when it works, but if you don't have gigs, then you don't have anything. So, you know, I ended up working in the cannabis industry. I'm like the manager of my own store now. I make a decent amount of money. You know, so it's like I've never had this sort of financial stability with anything. I'm selling weed.
And it's giving you freedom, essentially. It's giving you the freedom to do what you want in your, like, the rest of your time, and you enjoy the job. Absolutely. Man, like I've never been as grateful as when I got the job that I'm doing now, because I'm basically working for my friend, doing videos and photography of people getting tattooed. I'm in the tattoo industry, which I love, which I've always loved even since a teenager. And I can't tattoo because I'm not artistically that way. Like, it's difficult to get in the tattoo industry if you're not a tattooist. And I am in it, you know, and yeah, and I enjoy my job. And yeah, I mean, I'm just, yeah, I'm grateful for the work that I'm doing. And
For sure.
it's now it's put me in a good headspace now that with the small available free time that I have got when I'm not working or with my family, I can do things like this, for example, and my YouTube, and you know, future interviews, which is all I ever wanted to fucking do. Do you know what I mean? But it took me a long time to get there, man. Like,
Yeah. Well, you've always been an entertainer, going back to those trips on the bus. I
yeah, I
remember,
loved it.
like, yeah, you were always entertaining everyone. I distinctly remember, like, it's like burned into my head. I remember you would like pretend to masturbate your throat and then you'd like spit,
Fuck,
you know?
really?
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, I
I,
remember
I,
that.
re- often remember giving unsolicited advice, and I remember, I remember telling you about how not to feel guilty if you masturbate too much. I remember that
Was I
because
feeling guilty about that? I probably was.
no, but I definitely was. I definitely was. I was just projecting. I was projecting my issues, you know. There's a problem shared and all of that. I mean,
I think we were all in the same boat back then.
I was 14, you were 12. It's like you were definitely too young to be getting that advice. And I was definitely too young to be giving it. But
It was a different world there on that school bus. It was a different
Jesus
world.
Christ.
There was
Jesus
its own
Christ.
ecosystem on that school
Man,
bus.
man,
That
that school bus.
yeah, it's so funny. I like there's a lot of stuff. You put me on to some music on that school bus. I don't think I would have heard of I probably would have eventually, but you got me onto the Bloodhound Gang.
Oh yeah. We
Yeah.
played that album just last week, funnily enough.
Really?
In the
That's
studio,
too
yeah.
funny. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I listened to that album like kind of recently, like thinking within the
It's a
last
great
year.
album.
It's a great album. I was like, man, this is
Yeah.
like, you know, it's one of those albums that you can't like really like openly like play for everyone because
No,
of the content,
no, but
but
if you play it and someone else knows it, it's
oh,
like, oh yeah, we're on a certain page here. It's a lot of
totally.
fun.
Yeah, I remember you listened. We had like the Discmen back then,
Yeah.
the
Man,
CD looked
I,
like a boob.
I loved school so much, and only for the social aspect. It was like when I was being that clown and like making people laugh or just being hyper, was when I was the most free. Really,
Hmm.
that was when I was really in my element. And it was only like the couple of years after that where I started needing alcohol to feel
Hmm.
like that. The way I was on the bus, like pretending to be a throat wank, like I ended up having to drink to feel like that. But that's what I was always striving to get towards. I just wanted to be free like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
you
it,
always seemed like you were on drugs.
yeah, right. And I had to get sober to reconnect myself with that. I had to, because I kind of lost myself along the way, you know, because of alcohol.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it could be 101 reasons why, but I ended up losing a lot of like my core self-belief was very insecure, and I didn't really believe in myself the way that I portrayed on the outside.
Hmm.
It was like I was overcompensating, and a lot of that hyperness was like overcompensating. But as a young person, I guess you are a bit more hyper.
For sure.
But getting sober for me really helped me. I remember when I started doing the YouTube stuff at the very beginning, like I was the first few takes, which I never published. I was really hyper, and I was really like bleh, and like spacky and like whoa. And then I felt disconnected to it, and I realized that I've kind of, I don't know if mature is the right word, but I've grown to a place where my material now I don't feel has to be too hyper, because it's not really who I am now. It's like there's a
Hmm.
part of me that's, I guess I've just slowed down with that bit, because I'm finding more value in what I'm saying as opposed to how I'm acting. But I have no idea what my point is, by the way. I'm
I
just
think it.
making.
I mean, I think that what I'm getting from it is this, there's like, you know, this sort of evolution of your personality based on a culmination of factors, whether they're internal or external. I think, I mean, I feel like, you know, like it was kind of like a feedback ping pong thing back when we were like kids on the bus, because everyone
Right.
loved your antics. So it's like that just probably fed back to you being like, oh, this is awesome. Everyone's got their eyes on me.
Yeah,
So
validation. Like I must be
yeah,
a good person, right? Yeah, I think
yeah.
yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of it comes from insecurities. Like when you're overcompensating that much, where you've got to be the clown all the time,
Mhm.
and not really letting people get to know the true you. It's because you're covering it up. It's a shield. It's just
Yeah.
a fun one for people to see.
Yeah.
There's another reason why it was difficult for me to stop drinking, because people were like, "Oh, come on, it'll be loads of fun," blah, blah, blah. And I would need the alcohol to be the person they wanted me to be.
Mm.
Whereas now I'm quite comfortable not being always the hyperactive person. I mean, I still have my moments, and I sometimes wonder if I do that out of insecurity. Like
Mhm.
even before this interview, when I was messaging you, I was getting quite silly, and I would do it, and then I would think back, and I was like, oh, you haven't done that for a while. What's that about? Like, are you doing that to make him feel uncomfortable so you feel more comfortable, or are you just uncomfortable so you've got to overcompensate? And I kind of was. I kind of was overcompensating.
I
It's
think
just
you unlocked like your memories of our relationship are from that time,
definitely.
and you know, maybe there's something there where you're like, you know, hey, this might be more familiar. The territory might be more familiar if
Yeah,
I act
maybe,
more like how I was back then or something.
maybe. Yeah, definitely. And I've learned over the past few years that's being sober that vulnerability is actually, there's a lot more strength in being vulnerable than strength being in putting on a facade and pretending to be something that you're not. And the hyperactive stuff is great, and there's a time and a place, but to put it on, to actually switch it on is just it's not real.
Hmm.
And I feel more comfortable being vulnerable than not being real. I'm just such a fucking guru, mate. I'm such a
You are,
guru.
you are. You're staying true like your hand tattoos.
Man,
The
it's been a fucking journey, I tell
I
you.
I think honestly though, I think that like you have a great balance of the two, and I think that like your YouTube channel, your YouTube videos kind of really show that, in that like
Thank
you're obviously like a very perceptive guy. You know, you're a smart guy, but at the same time, like you are a silly guy, and it's
you.
like
Right.
that's very entertaining to watch, but it's also very like comforting to watch someone who's
Yeah.
not just one or the other, you know?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, man, because that's exactly what I'm hoping to be able to continue to do. I don't want to do these videos if I can't be silly from time to time, because silly works for me. Like it's what I have to be silly. And especially when you're talking about things like, you know, drink problems or anxiety, or I can't remember half the shit I've talked about now, but you know, when you're talking like serious topics and like life-changing problems that people have, it can get fucking like lethargic after a while. Like it's hard to
Mhm.
talk about that for 20 minutes and it not be like, oh God, why? Like you gotta lift it up, you know, every now and then. And if that means being a twat, that's fine. Like let's keep it light. These topics are dark, so let's keep it light. Oh, that's good. I'll keep that. I like that one.
It's good. That's good. Yeah, but it's true. Like that's why they have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
comic relief characters in movies. You know, it's like it's a little
Exactly
too
right.
much if you go the whole way with the drama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you need a palate cleanser from time to time.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of your comedy sensibilities were based off of like Lee Evans stand up?
Man, yeah, Lee Evans definitely uh, had a big impact on me when I was younger. Lee Evans, Eddie Izzard, because Eddie Izzard was more on the like the smarter side of things. But even like Mr. Bean, Jim Carrey, like these people were the fucking geniuses, man. And to make silly funny and it not get and for it to continue to taste okay,
Hmm.
You've got to know what you're doing, because there's such a fine line between it being silly funny and silly cringe, or
Hmm.
silly like too sweet sort of thing. Like it, you can ruin a good thing. And like they were absolute, yeah, yeah. I guess I did pick up like from them a lot of it.
Yeah, totally.
I can't remember what it is. I watched back something and I was like, oh my god, that's not me. I've picked that up from someone else. It might be Lee Evans actually. But you know, there's so many things that we do and say that are like they're from films that you watched when you were a kid, and it's just become part of your vocabulary now.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, you know, like cool beans or whatever. Like there's so many slogans that we just say and we don't even think about. But yeah,
It's
it's
true.
interesting. It's interesting.
It is interesting. Well, I think we'll wrap this up here. We've been talking for almost 2 hours. So,
Jesus, 11 o'clock. It's
but
been good, man.
it's been
Good.
absolutely fascinating. And I mean, like it's super interesting. And not just that, it's been super cool to reconnect with you over
Yeah, yeah, it's been
so
nice.
many years.
Yes.
I'm super happy that you're happy, you know, and that you've got an awesome family. You've got a dream job,
Yeah.
you know, things. It seems like things are going really well for you. We're in the middle of a pandemic still here, but
What
things
pandemic?
are going good for
I'm a recluse
Heywood
anyway.
Taylor. Well, that was certainly radical. I was super awesome catching up with my old buddy from back in Spain, and sounds awesome all the stuff he's got going on. Check out his YouTube channel, check out his Instagram channel. This guy's got weekly videos coming out. They're all about like mental health, wellness, and his life, all sorts of stuff that's super relatable and super awesome. Check it out, and check out our next episode next week. It's going to be awesome as always. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned. Distorted Frequencies.